Alright, so we're going to be talking about memorization. We talked yesterday about cutting your piece and how to look for a good piece, but this is the next step in really addressing how you're putting it together, because without this you can't really do anything else. You need to memorize your piece. So we'll be going through a few tips and looking at different techniques to help you memorize faster and more effectively. So, memorization techniques. Now, when we're looking at memorizing, we have to look at how do we learn? What ways do we best learn? For me, I'm an audio learner, and that means I take in the best information, I take it in most effectively through hearing it. So some people are best through audio methods. So looking at this though, by understanding that if you learn this way, you can utilize this and see that maybe you should record your entire speech and listen to it while you do daily activities. I've actually done this before, and it really does help by hearing it over and over again. Hearing is really the easiest way that I learn, but I know other people are different. Now, along with this same idea, some people will create a song or rap, something that has a melody to it that makes it easier for them to understand because their brain works more in a hearing way, so they'll hear the different notes and the words will come easier if you put it to a rap or a song. I've never personally done this, but I know that other people have. Now, contrasting to this, a lot of people are visual learners. Now, while some people are audio learners, others learn visually. By this, though, we can see that you need something that's visual that you can imprint into your mind. So making a diagram of the sections of your speech, breaking it up, making sure you can see all the different parts is really helpful for people who are visual learners. Additionally, you can associate different sections of your speech with an object or situation. The more obscure, the better. Now, this word obscure is very important to note because it's talking about creating a picture and associating that with a section of your speech. If something is more obscure, it's going to imprint better into your mind. Now, actually, in the ancient Roman, when they were trying to memorize speeches, they would use this technique of creating a sequence of events with different obscure pictures to it, and they would memorize the pictures, and it was easier to memorize because it was so different. You need something that stands out about your section, and that will help your brain remember, oh, this is what's next, oh, this is why this is this way. Being more obscure really helps with that. Now let's look at a few additional memorization tips. Outlining. This is something that is huge for me because, outline. It's huge for me because I need to be able to see each part of my speech and what comes next. All of my speeches, I outline them because it allows me to understand where I'm going, the trajectory of my speech. It gives me a mental map, so it's easier than just memorizing word for word, because if you're only memorizing the words, you don't know where you're going. So if you mess up or draw a blank, then you don't have that trajectory anymore. You don't know the big picture. This gives you the big picture so that you can move forward, even if you don't remember the specific words. Along with this, you can use your outline combined with the audio and visual techniques to create an overall more effective memorization time. By breaking your speech up into different sections, you can give a picture to each section and also have that as something that will jog your memory for what you're supposed to be saying. So this also goes into the part about sections. Work on small sections at a time instead of working on the entire speech at once. So by outlining it, you'll have these sections, and by rehearsing smaller sections, it kind of puts it into categories in your brain, and it makes it easier for you to remember it. The sections are also less overwhelming, less daunting. So if you're saying, I'm going to do 2 or 3 sections today, I'm not going to do my whole thing, but I'm going to do 2 or 3 sections, that puts it into a much smaller portion and you can work more effectively when you're doing that. Additionally, you need to repeat. Repeat the section several times after you think you have it memorized, because you can have something in your mind, you can repeat it 2 or 3 times thinking, oh, I know this, I'm going to move on. But then you go back and you don't actually have it memorized. You need to repeat it several times over a different over a longer period of time, so over several days. Keep going through it because that transfers it from short-term memory into long-term memory. Often when we're repeating something and we think we know it, but we actually don't, it's because it's still in short-term memory. When you need to move it into long-term memory by having it over multiple days, rehearsing that same line of thought in your brain so that it stays there and your brain has a better time of remembering it. Additionally, use your senses. This is another key thing. If you're a visual learner and an audio learner, this is kind of the combination of senses that really helps you lock it into your brain. So speak it out loud while reading your script. This will engage both your audio and your visual side of learning. So this is actually what I do. I'll break it into sections, I'll outline it, and then I'll rehearse, repeat, and I'll rehearse it, speaking it out loud while looking at my script. But that way I can see the outline, because I've created the outline on my page. I've marked off the sections. I'll see the sections, I'll see the words that I'm actually reading, what I'm trying to memorize, and then I'll also hear it. So I'm using the muscles in my mouth, I'm using my ears to hear it, and I'm seeing it with my eyes. And all of that creates a larger input of information that helps you memorize. Additionally, use your body. This is a unique point. While memorizing your speech, use hand motions, walk in circles, stretch. This has two caveats to it. You see, when you're memorizing, and if you're memorizing in character, then you're going to be rehearsing the thought with the motion, and it kind of all comes as one. But if you're just memorizing and you don't do the motion you want to do while you're speaking, then you need to mix it up. Because a lot of people will sit down and they'll memorize. They'll sit with their script and they'll be in a hunched position. And then when they go to act it out, they're having a hard time coming out of their box. They're having a hard time opening up their arms and speaking because they've not had this presence that they had before, because they rehearsed it in a certain way with certain movements. But if you break it up and you make sure you're memorizing in different positions, different ways, you're not memorizing the motion with the information. You're memorizing just the information. And that can keep you from getting into a rut. But also reversely, if you're memorizing and you want the motion, memorize it with the motion so that it comes as a whole. Additionally, review. I said this before, to work on it in consecutive days. And this is important because you have to keep it fresh in your mind. Once you start memorizing, you can easily lose it if you don't keep repeating it. Repeating it and have it be over a time. You need some time to get this into your mind. Additionally, don't cram. Oops. Let's go back. So don't cram. Don't wait until the last minute. Take time to take in your speech. Now, in speech and debate, we can often be found the night before the tournament trying to memorize our speeches, trying to put it all together and cram in this memorization. While some people can do it, really it's not the best. And the better interpretive people don't cram. They have it memorized. And that's also why people tend to do better later on in the season, because they haven't crammed. They're now more prepared than they were for the first tournament. So if you want to do better, especially at the first tournament, give yourself time to take in the information that you need. Keep it fresh. Do it over a consecutive amount of days. Break it down into small sections. Be smart about it, you know? And with that, we'll move on to characterization, which is Leah's time.